Want a real vibes only, unfiltered take on just about anything and everything? Entrepreneur, best-selling author, speaker, and busy mom, Chelsea Husum shares her unapologetic views about life, business, and this beautifully imperfect hot mess world we face each and every day with lip service and lashes. Now here's your host, Chelsea Husum.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I hope your week is going well. Welcome to the Lip Service and Lashes podcast with Chelsea Husum. I am thrilled you're here. Today, I wanted to chat on reinvention. I know we've all gone through it, reinvented ourselves in some way or another. Some people very drastically, some people have to pivot in smaller ways. But I always find it interesting kind of how people end up where they are today, which to me, it's very rarely a straight line. It's always this zigzaggy, crazy, hot mess life situations that have led us to where we are today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about different phases of life I've gone through, because I've pivoted in a pretty big way numerous times. And people are like, oh my God, how did you go from this to this? Right. So I kind of wanted to share my story a little bit. So I'm from a small town in South Dakota. I was in college and I was finishing I have 2 bachelor degrees. One is Spanish and one is broadcast journalism. So for my broadcasting degree, part of the requirement to graduate was to do an internship either in radio or TV. So South Dakota I really wanted to do TV because in my heart, I just knew I would be the next Barbara Walters. Barbara's cool as shit. Let's just say she's awesome. But that's was my goal back in the day. So, but the TV stations in South Dakota got taken up. Those internships got taken up very quickly. So at this point, I just needed one to graduate. So I was kind of desperate. My dad lived in Colorado at the time, and one of his really good friends was a radio DJ. So I actually ended up moving to Colorado that summer, and she was a DJ at a radio station. And so I lived with her and her husband and worked for 40 hours a week for free, because that's what you do apparently, at your internship. But I worked for this country radio station, which was pretty cool because I'm totally a country gal and I loved it. Really, the only way I got, quote, paid was from, I got some free concert tickets, which was cool. But I did that. And then after I finished that, I officially have my 2 degrees. At that point, the college loans started coming due. And I was like, oh crap, I literally need just a job to make some money to pay for these. So I'm in Denver, kind of desperate. And at this point I had looked at some TV stations here, and really you start as a reporter. Obviously you're not like an anchor like Barbara Walters was, right? She worked her way up. But, looking at these job postings, you're working nights and weekends, and back then we're making like 20 to 25 grand a year, which was horrible. So I was like, that doesn't sound very enticing to me. So I just took a job to get money, as a receptionist. It was like a temp receptionist company. So, 1 week I would work, let's say in downtown Denver for this company, because maybe their normal receptionist was on vacation or something like that. So I, kind of popped around to different offices, and worked for different companies just as a temporary receptionist. Little side note, when you pop a small town South Dakota girl in Denver with a lot of one-way streets, it doesn't go well, friends. It's bad, real bad. I went down one-way streets a lot the wrong way, and it was kind of terrifying, honestly. And just trying to park in downtown, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. Luckily, I did not kill myself or anyone else, so that's fantastic, and I made it through. But yeah, it was a little brutal. So I'm working for this company. The owner of the company one day comes to me and says, hey, my sister works for this marketing and experiential trade show firm. They need a receptionist. She wants to meet you. I told her you're from the Midwest, and so are we. So she's like, I think she's going to like you. So I go to this interview, meet this woman who was just the sweetest. And she's like, yep, you're hired. So that was so cool. So I'm now at a real job, not popping around to different places, but I'm at a real place as a receptionist. With that, I, helped all kinds of different people at the company, but eventually I was working my way up. So I started selling like the portable trade show stuff. And then I, became an account manager and then an account executive. And then I was assistant to the owner and all kinds of different stuff. So I learned a ton of stuff. It was really cool. Like the company had a really fun vibe. Like dogs were there. Every Friday for breakfast, they would either get donuts or breakfast burritos. And then at noon, they'd go get beer and we'd like sit at our desks. I'd sit at my desk doing like a quote for $200,000 drinking a beer. It was pretty fun, but we had fun parties. It was just really chill, and a really neat experience. But probably like 5 to 6 years in, I remember it was just really stressful towards the end. And for example, like I would be managing these shows. Like let's say I coordinated a show in New York or I coordinated a show in Las Vegas or whatever. And I remember like constantly things going wrong. Like the semi truck driver would get lost and they're calling me for directions, or something would get damaged and I'm having to like overnight stuff and fix this, fix that. And I remember I went to yoga once and I had my phone there because it was a show. Like I was on call and there was a show like installing that day. And I was just terrified that something would go wrong. And I think it did. And I was like, I'm at yoga, like stressed out, beyond belief. This is ridiculous. And I remember also one time camping, I'm standing on top of a mountain and like, again, this truck driver's, lost, or, a forklift just backed into the exhibit booth. Like, oh my God, things are broken. We need to overnight everything. And I was, it's just like, I'm trying to live my life on the weekends and it's just mass chaos. So in my soul, I'm like, I really don't feel that like what I'm doing here, what we're doing is like worth the stress. So I started doing some soul searching. I'm like, I knew I had to move on, but I just didn't know where and doing what. So I started thinking, well, what's the point? Like, what am I doing right now? What do I want to do? And I kind of was like, you know what? I want to use my Spanish degree because I just kind of got that for funsies. Like, I liked Spanish. Side note, I will say that I took 2 years of Spanish in high school and I do not remember one word. Like literally don't remember a thing. The teachers were pretty elderly and I probably got an A just because I'm like, I was a good student and I was nice, but I don't remember shit at all. So that's weird. So then I started again in college, started taking Spanish. I'm like, oh, I really like this and I'm actually pretty good at it. And then, yeah, so who would have thought? So at this point though, like I had a Spanish degree, yes. So I technically could have taught, but I knew I had no clue about teaching whatsoever. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a Spanish teacher. So in order to actually feel like competent walking into a classroom, like able to teach successfully, I was like, well, I need to get a degree in something, in teaching. So I decided to quit my job. I did what they call a fast forward program, a master's degree from Regis University in Denver. Freakishly expensive. Oh my God. But instead of like a 2-year master's program, you're busting it out in 1 year. So like the programs or like the classes typically for a master's program were 8 weeks. Mine covered the exact same amount of stuff, but it was in 2 weeks. So it was very intense, they said you absolutely cannot have a job if you're in this program because you will flunk out. You can't handle it, whatever. So at this point, I was living with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. And I was like, I really want to do this, but like, I can't work. And I never wanted to depend on a man. I'm like, I'm a strong woman. I got this. I don't need a man, blah, blah, blah. But I really had to come to him and say like, hey, I want to do this. Can you help me? And he was like, yeah, we're apart. We're, partners. I got you. You're good. Do what you want to do. So he's amazing. Most people would be like, hell no, you're insane. Get out. But apparently he loves me and we're married. Love you. So I go get my master's. I'm teaching, I remember the first day I was driving to my job, and I literally was like tearing up. I had chills, like goosebumps. I was so freaking excited and happy. I was like, oh my God, I'm making a difference. I'm going to mold the youth of tomorrow, and I get to use my degree, and this is so amazing. And I taught at some really great schools. I started at middle school in Cherry Creek schools, taught there for 3 years. And then like the vibe of the school, the ambiance of the school was amazing. And I loved the principal and the people I worked with. But if you're like, you can only say for so many years, like, hello, my name is Chelsea. I have brown eyes and I like to ski in Spanish. Like teaching level 1 Spanish eventually got old. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like forgetting like how to actually speak Spanish in an advanced way here. So I was like, you know what? I would love to go to the high school level, which was what I had kind of the whole point, my goal, which was my long-term goal. So then I got a new job at another high school and worked there, I think 5-6 years. And yeah, I think the first year I was teaching like level 4 Spanish. It was awesome. And like a level 2 or something like that. But I actually got to use my Spanish and kind of see these kids like doing really cool activities and having conversations and things like that. So it was really cool. And then my very last year of teaching, I started a Spanish program at a charter school. And that, I was like, I remember walking out of the interview and I had met the principal and I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It's more of a experiential, like more modern education kind of style. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. And it went well for a while till it didn't. And it just went downhill. Actually, it was pretty quick, went downhill in September. I remember sitting in my room, in my, classroom, and I looked over and it was like, it said September 18th. And I was like, that was the day a kid called me a fucking waste of space. And I was like, it's going to be a long year. I barely even made it. That year, I just wanted to be done in December. I was miserable. And it was just, I didn't love it anymore. And I knew if I don't love it, I have to move on. So I, at that point, was like, now what am I going to do? I have literally zero clue what I'm going to go out in the world and do. I don't know. And I wasn't going to be Barbara Walters. I was done with teaching. I wasn't going back to, marketing, all that stuff. So I'm like literally starting fresh. And I was like, oh, I'm going to apply for, I could be an assistant or I could be, personal assistant, blah, blah, blah. Cause I'm a organized freak and I'm like weirdly good at that stuff. I'm like, I could do that in my sleep. So I was applying for those jobs and really whatever sounded cool at the time. And I got 0 calls, like crickets, nothing. And it was really discouraging because I'm like, okay, maybe people are looking at my resume and like, she's overqualified, or they just don't like me, or they don't think I do a good job. I don't know. But whatever it was, it sucked. It really sucked. And so I'm like, well, I got to get out of this, but I have no direction, no plan. What am I going to do? So I got offered a job as an office manager for a construction company. And I ended up taking it because, again, I was so desperate just to get out. And it was work from home. I was like, that sounds cool. So I took that. And so I think June of 2019 was my last year teaching. And fast forward, if we could, COVID would have been the year after, the following year. And thank God I got out of teaching before then, because that just would have been a complete and utter shit show. Let's just be honest. So get out of teaching. I'm working as this office manager. It was great at the beginning. I'm working from home, which I'm a really hard worker. I bust it out. I get stuff done. You can walk the dog. You can throw laundry in, whatever. I enjoyed it. And then as it went on, it's like totally, I'd wake up with this anxiety because every day was like waiting for another shit show to happen, waiting for my boss to call me and be like, this happened and you need to figure it out, and just fires to put out all the time. And it's really because he was so disorganized and the company was so disorganized that I was constantly cleaning up messes and pretty intense messes, to be honest. It was really stressful. And towards the end, I was just like, oh my God, now again, what am I doing? So March of 2020, I decide to start my own construction company with this niche, this concrete scanning that I've seen in Denver. I've heard very few people do it. Most companies don't do it well. So I'm like, I feel like I can step in, have a little niche here, and really solve people's problems of doing quality work, and then also getting on a site quickly. So March 2020, I'm slowly building that company. Really didn't do much. It's like doing all the little, the behind the scenes things, like getting insurance, buying equipment, blah, blah, blah. So and 2021 then kind of, I'm starting to do a little bit of business. But I was still working that other job. So I was working 2 full-time jobs, which for a while, I could handle. Again, I'm a really hard worker, and was doing fine. But then finally in April of 2022, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It's like, now my company has been growing and it needs me. It needs my full attention. So finally quit that other job and then stepped fully into my company. And honestly, the anxiety of waking up, waiting to have a call from my boss, like that took a long time to actually get out of my, mind, and like to wake up without feeling like a shit show was coming. But finally, I'm in my company and I'm very organized and I know exactly what I've done to build it. And I have a hand in everything because I'm doing everything at this point, minus my employees who are out on a job site, like, doing the actual work, which no one wants me doing that because buildings would fall. It'd be horrible. But I weirdly have found that I can step into a company and create it from nothing and work my ass off and not know all what you're doing, but you figure it out. I have found mentors, these women in Denver that have these companies. Some of them have 200 employees. They're doing multi-millions a year. And I became their friend. And we go talk business. We talk our profit and loss statement. We talk insurance. And they actually get what I'm dealing with, which is amazing, right? And I've become their friends, and I'm able to call them if I want advice, or I say, hey, this happened. What would you do? And so it's been really neat, and to meet so many other women in construction. Maybe they're not owners, but a lot of my friends that I've met have been working in construction 20, 30 years, right? They are the ones that paved the way for me. And so it's been really cool to step into this and know what I've built and know how hard I worked to build it, and how many questions I asked and how much I Googled, and how, I really leaned on people for help and advice. And it's been really cool to almost double every year and just kind of find that niche. So now we do concrete scanning and we do the core drilling, which is circular cutting of concrete in the floors or the walls. So think like a high-rise building. We're scanning it to make sure there's nothing dangerous in there. And then we cut the holes more or less for electrical or mechanical companies. So, to build a company my way and do things my way has been really cool. And even more so, the fact that we're have become a successful company. We're an award-winning company, which I can't believe, and I'm so grateful that so many people in Denver and Colorado have like taken me under their wing and supported us and really are like, oh my God, we love you guys. Like, we're not using anyone else, So it's been amazing. And the twists and turns my life took, I would never sit here thinking I'm going to own a company of anything. And then secondly, work in construction. But like, how weird that life took me where I needed to be and where I would thrive and actually be good at it and enjoy it and love my life. And now I have complete control over my schedule. I am the boss, so I only answer to myself, and I know what I need to get done, and I know what can wait if it needs. If I get a call and my kid's sick at school and I got to pick him up, or if I want to, this week, I'm going to be volunteering at my kid's Halloween party at school. I can work really from anywhere. I've worked in Italy for 10 days, ran the whole company by myself and had an amazing vacation for 10 days. I've worked in Mexico numerous times. I, take my kids skiing and then I go put them in the pool and I work. I work really odd kind of chunks or different hours, but I've found a way to live my life while building a company and not wait for that someday. Oh, someday I'll enjoy my life, right? I'm enjoying it now. And I also have a successful company. So I'm incredibly blessed, and I'm grateful for every twist and turn that led me here and every completely new phase of my life where I have to completely reinvent myself and learn. But I've proven now that I can be successful in anything, really, because I have the grit. I know who to surround myself with. I know to be around successful people doing what I want to do and get to know them and become their friend and get mentors, right? So it's been amazing. And I really just want to say I'm proof that you're never too old. Or, like, for example, for my construction company, I don't have a business degree. I never had business training. I figured it out. And yes, there was blood, sweat, and tears for sure. But I figured it out, and you can. And I want to inspire you, if you're feeling stuck right now and there's something more out there for you, you need to figure out what is calling you. What do you feel? What makes you feel alive? And go figure out a way to do it and stop making excuses that, oh, you don't need to go back to a 4-year school. Maybe there's a certificate you can get, or maybe there's a course online you could take, or whatever. Figure it out and make it happen. Because if you're not happy in what you're doing, I'm sorry, but that's on you. That's on you. You can make a change, and I'm proof of that. I'm proof of that. So thank you for listening. I so appreciate you. Please subscribe, share this with your friends, tell everyone about it, and just remember, no BS, just real vibes. This has been the Lip Service and Lashes podcast with Chelsea Husum, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Lip Service and Lashes with Chelsea Husum. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Chelsea and her life as a hot mess mompreneur, head over to chelseahusum.com. And be sure to follow her on all social platforms. Thanks for listening, and just remember, no BS, just real vibes.